John Bullard here. Welcome to Lesson 3. Today we'll be looking at slur studies for banjo. Now, the term slur study is something that comes from the classical guitar world, and it refers to studies that strengthen and develop dexterity in the left hand. But in reality, a slur is really a hammer-on or a pull-off. Of course, in banjo, we're used to hammer-ons and pull-offs, kind of like that. And technically, that's what a slur really is a hammer-on or a pull-off on a certain string. So you could go from, say, an A to a B flat, and that would be considered a slur, or say from a B flat to an A. Really just a hammer-on or a pull-off. So today's lesson is a series of studies that employ hammer-ons and pull-offs in a more methodical way to really develop the left hand. A word of caution about these slur studies. You want to make sure that you're warmed up when you work on these, that you've done some other easier playing beforehand, and that your hands are already limbered and warmed up before you work on these. It's easy to get tendinitis or some other problem by overworking these kinds of studies when you're either, one, not warmed up, or by just doing them too hard and for too long. So my disclaimer here is that you make sure that you're warmed up before you start working on these, and that you don't work on them too long at a stretch. And also, I'm going to show you a narrow range in which to work on these. And that range would be between the 5th fret and the 12th fret. And more specifically, when I do slur studies, I maintain the position of the 5th position is my lowest position, where my first finger is on the 5th fret, and the highest place I go is the 9th position, which has my pinky at the 12th fret. So there's really a narrow range there that I'm recommending you do these studies. I'll go ahead and show you the positions on each string where we'll be doing that. The first position, and we'll start on the 4th string, will be where each finger is at a fret. So first finger at 5th fret, second finger at 6th, third finger at 7th, and pinky at 8th. That would be the first position. So each finger kind of has a fret. And then we're going to move up 1 fret, and still each finger has a fret. And then we'll move up another position, another fret, and another, until the top of our range where our pinky ends up at the 12th fret. That narrow range is the only range we're going to use to do these slur studies. And the reason for that is for, cautionary reasons and health reasons. The frets are wider down here, obviously, and trying to do these slur studies in the lower positions is harder and a little more stressful on your tendons and ligaments and so forth. So I don't recommend doing them there at all. And then likewise, once you get above the 12th fret, things are closer together and it's harder to do. Sometimes after I'm well warmed up, I will do some slur studies in the upper registers where the frets are closer together, just to get some work on those tight places. But for now, let's just look at going from the first position at the 5th fret up to the last position where the pinky is at the 12th fret. We'll be looking at 2 different slur studies today, and each study has 2 progressions or 2 levels of difficulty. So we're going to first try to work on the easier version, and then I'll show you the harder version, but I would also make sure that you do the easier version and get comfortable with that first before trying the harder version. Okay, so let's dig in and I'll show you how to do these slur studies. Alrighty then, let's take a close look at slur study number 1. What we're going to be doing is starting at the 5th position, which is our index at the 5th fret, and we're going to be doing this all on the 4th string. We're using the 4th string to do all of our examples on. And we'll be going, each finger has a fret, the next fret up, Then we'll slide that whole position up a fret at a time until we end up with the pinky at the 12th fret. And that's the top of our range, which is actually the 9th position technically because my index is at the 9th fret. So that's as far up as we'll go, and then we'll go back down a fret at a time. So let me show you what the first measure of Slur Study number 1 looks like. And I'm plucking the G, which is the 4th string 5th fret. I'm plucking the first note with a finger of my right hand. And then the next note I'm getting with a hammer on. Then plucking the G again, going up to the next fret, next finger, plucking the G, and then going up. So each measure has 3 hammer-ons. 1, 2. Then we'll slide up a fret and do repeat. Slide up a fret, repeat. Slide up a fret, repeat. Slide up a fret, repeat. And now we're going to descend, which is basically going backwards, but instead of hammer-ons, we'll be doing pull-offs. So we're going to pull off from the pinky at the 12th fret, and we're going to pull off to each next fret down. So the first one is pull off to the ring finger. Then we go back so we can make this D note again with the pinky and pull off to the C, and then go down. Let me show you that one more time. So we're pulling off to each next finger. So pinky pulls off to ring, pinky pulls off to second finger, and pinky pulls off to index. Then we slide down a fret and repeat. Slide down, repeat. Slide down, repeat. And slide down once more and repeat. And now we're back at the 5th position, or our starting position, with the index at the 5th fret. And one thing to remember is we want to try to keep our fingers very quiet and close to the fingerboard like this while you're doing these exercises. A good way to get into that position is to make a loose fist, relax it, and then slide it behind the neck. And that's kind of a natural position to be in. And I'm using my thumb most of the time behind my second finger, approximately, to give me good leverage behind the neck. So that's, and I'm trying to keep my fingers low to the fingerboard rather than letting them fly out like that. So the trick in these slur studies is to try to develop independence and control of your fingers. So that's the whole idea. Okay, so here is Slur Study number 1, ascending and descending on the 4th string with a metronome. So let's look at the second level of difficulty for Slur Study number 1. And to achieve the second level of difficulty, we're removing our right hand from the equation. So we are not going to pluck any notes. All notes in this study now will be sounded by the left hand only. So either a hammer-on or a pull-off will sound the note. So for example, in the first measure, the initial G on the 5th fret of the 4th string will be made or sounded by a hammer-on. And then we'll hammer on to the G sharp, and then we'll sound the G again by a pull-off, and then hammer on to the A, and sound the G again by a pull-off, and hammer on to the, I guess you would want to say, A sharp, and sound the G by pulling off. So it's quite a bit more difficult. Let me play that first measure a little bit more in time. And then you would slide up. So that's ascending on the 4th string. Now descending is just like we did before, only again there's no right hand involved. So we're sounding the notes by hammering on and pulling off. So the D at the 12th fret, see, we have to hammer on every time for that D. Then we move down. Now we're back to our starting position. Now I'm going to play the second level of difficulty for Slur Study number 1 with a metronome. And again, this is all with the left hand. So now we're back to our starting position. For all of the slur studies we're covering, Slur Study 1 and 2, both levels of difficulty, we want to go up the 4th string to our top position, back down the 4th string, and then we move to the 3rd string and go up the 3rd string till our pinky is at the 12th fret and back down. Then we move to the 2nd string and we ascend to the same place and back down, and then we move to the 1st string and we do our study ascending and then descending. So we cover the 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st string. No need to do this really on the 5th string unless you really want to. But make sure you get comfortable with it on the 4th string first, and then you can move to doing it on the other 3 strings, but maintain very slow, methodic work with this study. Let's look at Slur Study number 2. This will be the first level of difficulty for Slur Study number 2, so we're going back to using our right hand to pluck some notes. The difference in this study is that there's a repeated figure in each measure, and we're going to be, instead of going with each finger, we're going to do them in pairs. We're going to go index, hammering to ring finger, and then we're going to be going 2nd finger hammering to pinky. So our pattern is changed, but the idea is the same. So the first measure of Slur Study number 2, we're going to be plucking the G again each time and hammering on, this time 2 frets up to the A. And then we want to put our finger down, second finger down on its fret, and we're plucking the G sharp and hammering on to the A sharp with our pinky. So the first measure of slur study number 2 would look like this. So it's hammering from G to A twice, and then from G sharp to A sharp twice. Then we move up to where our index is on the A, and we do the same pattern. And then we move up to where our index finger is on the B and repeat that pattern. What I like about this exercise is that it goes by a lot faster because we're covering more ground more quickly. So it doesn't take as long as the first one. And then to go backwards and descend on the 4th string, we're going to do the same thing of go backwards. So we're going to be pulling off, we're plucking the D at the 12th fret of the 4th string and pulling off to the C. And then we go to ring and index, and we pluck the D flat and pull off to the B. So that first measure descending would look like. And then we move down to where our pinky's at the C and do the same thing. Then we move down to where pinky is at the B flat and we do the same thing. So now I'm going to play slur study number 2, ascending and descending on the 4th string with a metronome to show you how to work on this. We're back to our starting position. Let's look at the second level of difficulty for slur study number 2. So again, what we're doing for this second level of difficulty is removing our right hand from the equation, and all notes will be sounded by the left hand. So we're either hammering on or pulling off to get our notes. So the first measure of slur study number 2 with the second level of difficulty, which means no right hand, would look like this. So it's hammer on, pull off, hammer on, pull off. And then we move up to the A where our index is at the A and repeat. Then we move up to where index is at the 9th fret or the B. And then we go back down with pull-offs, sounding the D. And then pinky to the B flat. So now I'll play slur study number 2 at the second level of difficulty, which means all notes sounded by the left hand, with a metronome to show you what that should look like. So remember that we'll be doing these exercises up the 4th string, down the 4th string, then move over to the 3rd string, up and down, move over to the 2nd string, up to where your pinky's at the 12th fret, down, and then the 1st string, up and back down. And so that should cover all of the slur studies that are on your PDF. So that's lesson 3, slur studies for banjo. I hope that'll help you develop your left hand and get you in a position where you can tackle some of the harder pieces. But I want to caution you again, make sure you work on these only after you're warmed up and only between the 5th and the 12th fret. We don't want to get hurt playing the banjo. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.